Welcome to Newslaundry Chhota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. Newslaundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a Newslaundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं भूलते. वी आर बैक. आई एम योर होस्ट दिस वीक because Abhinandan is on leave. He's away for some work. He's in Amsterdam partying. And I'm going to be your host this week and the next week, so you'll have to bear with me. Before I introduce our guests and our esteemed panel members, there are a couple of announcements that I want to make. One is that we've released all the episodes of Let's Talk About RSS. It's behind the paywall, so please tune in, listen to them. Please share some of the promos with your friends so they can also subscribe to Newslaundry and listen to this deep dive podcast on the RSS. Awful and Awesome is behind the paywall, so it's time you subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, then top up your subscriptions. But do tune into Awful and Awesome, don't miss it. We have an exciting new show featuring Kunal Kamra and Sanjay Rajora. I'm sure you guys know about that. That is also behind the paywall. But you can check out the first two episodes which are not behind the paywall. You can share them again with your friends and family and urge them also to become members of Newslaundry so they can check out some of our amazing content which is behind the paywall. We've got a lot of feedback on our app and we've been working on it for a long time. We've sent mails to all our subscribers to download and share and send their feedback on the app. So if you want to share some more feedback, do that. And since Awful and Awesome is behind the paywall, we're also going to release new episodes of LTA on the app to download for a better paywall podcast experience. We have an NL Sena project on Ramdev. 2 reports of it have been out. Ramdev was also in news this week because the Supreme Court said that he should not go around maligning modern medicine and saying that he can cure everything from cancer to hypertension to diabetes. So we have 2 stories that are out on Ramdev and his business. The third one's going to be out. Please check out the 2 reports. They'll be linked in the podcast. You can also watch the NL Sena interaction with the guys who subscribed for this story and Raman sir and the reporters. That will also be in the show links, so you can watch that episode. But please power NL Sena because we want to do more of that stuff. And Ramdev hasn't been topped up, the NL Sena and Ramdev. So please power it as much as you can and check out all our reports. I'll just quickly introduce our guest. In the house, we have Mehraj.
Hello.
Raman sir.
Hi.
Anand joining us from Patna, I'm guessing.
No, I am in Delhi, yes.
Oh, then you should have come to office. Okay. And we have Ashutosh Bhardwaj with us. Welcome, Ashutosh.
Thank you, Manisha.
Ashutosh is editor-at-large with Outlook. He's had a long stint with Indian Express before that. He's a fiction writer and also a literary critic. And he's also written non-fiction.
The Death Script.
Yes, on the Naxal movement in Chhattisgarh. He's won the Ramnath Goenka Award for Excellence in Journalism for 4 consecutive years. My God, you're a veteran of Ramnath Goenka Award. And so it's quite interesting. You straddle this world of fiction and non-fiction. So we should talk a bit about that. But we'll get the headlines before that. Mehraj, can we please have the headlines and then we'll talk about what we have to talk about.
The big headline of the week is Gautam Adani has moved to take control of NDTV.
Yeah.
How he did it is he bought a shell company that was once linked to Mukesh Ambani's Reliance and which controlled about 30% shares of NDTV.
Yeah.
Adani has also made an open offer for 26% more shares. And if all goes to plan, Adani will have a majority stake in NDTV. NDTV's promoters, Radhika and Pranay Roy, say they had no inkling of the takeover.
Yeah. And they've bought some time today. They said that basically we need some more time to hand over.
Because they were banned from trading securities by SEBI.
Yeah.
Another big news is that the CBI this week raided Delhi's Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia. The raid came after the agency filed a bunch of FIRs against 15 people over alleged corruption in Delhi's excise policy. Sisodia said the raid was a part of a script to stop Arvind Kejriwal from toppling Modi in the next general election.
And ED has followed the suit. They have also filed an FIR against Sisodia.
Nitish Kumar's new grand alliance with Lalu Prasad's RJD won the floor test in Bihar Assembly on Wednesday. BJP MLAs skipped the vote, doing the good old walkout. Courts can't tell a Muslim man not to pronounce irrevocable talaq because that would violate his constitutional right to freedom of religion, the Kerala High Court has said. If the talaq was not invoked in accordance with the Muslim personal law, then the wife could approach the court. The court also said that Muslim men cannot be restrained from marrying more than once because the practice is legally permitted under the Muslim personal law. In the Supreme Court, Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, is retiring tomorrow, Friday that is. Before he goes, though, he will hear a bunch of important cases. The release of the rapists of Shah Bano, Pegasus spying scandal, a petition seeking a review of the court's judgment upholding the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and the bail plea of activist Tista Settleward. The Chief Justice has also said that a constitution bench will hear the dispute between the central government and the Delhi government over the control of the state's bureaucracy. Raman has been Chief Justice for about a year and a half, and his court inherited a bunch of very important constitutional cases. If you want to know what has happened to those cases, you can read Tanishka Sodhi's report on Newslaundry. The link is in the show notes. The Kerala judge who made controversial remarks while granting bail to author Sivik Chandran in a sexual harassment case has been transferred. The judge had said the offence of sexual harassment was not prima facie made out when the woman was wearing quote-unquote sexually provocative dresses. Lakhs of people have been displaced as heavy rains have caused flooding and landslides in Himachal Pradesh, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. About 50 people have been killed across the 4 states as well.
Except for Delhi, it's flooding everywhere. It seems like Delhi is the only dry zone.
There is no river to flood Delhi. Yamuna is gone.
Yeah.
A Hyderabad court has granted bail to suspended BJP leader T. Raja Singh. He was arrested for making derogatory comments about Prophet Muhammad. After he came out of jail, he got something of a hero's welcome from his supporters. China on Monday said it will resume issuing visas to Indian students. It had stopped doing so 2 years ago because of the pandemic. The former security chief for Twitter has turned whistleblower and said that the company misled users and American regulators about gaps in its security. More importantly, for India, the whistleblower says that the Indian government forced Twitter to hire its agent, quote unquote, who has access to user data. If that's true, that's like a big
Crazy,
thing.
yeah.
Those are the headlines. Manisha, over to you.
And this includes Muslims like Lal Begis and Domes, who have traditionally suffered discrimination at the hands of Sayyids and Sheikhs. But just tell us a bit about the roots of this in South Asia and the BJP's push.
See, the BJP has realized that its most vocal and profound opponents within the Muslim community are from the Ashraf, the upper caste one, the educated ones. So there's a vast territory of these 85% OBC and Dalit Muslims who are as much opposed to the BJP, but they are not as articulate, and they are not being able to get even basic means of life. So BJP's pitch is, let's reach out to these poor and weaker Muslims by giving them either free ration or toilets or homes, housings, and then including them in various posts in the UP government. In fact, you would be surprised to know that in the second term of the Yogi government, a large number of posts to various institutions like Hajj Committee or Minority Commission or Urdu Commission or Committee for Welfare of Persian and all, these are occupied by the Pasmandas. I mean, the BJP has deliberately given appointments to the Pasmanda Muslims, so much so that the representation of the Ashrafs in the UP government is zilch now, almost zero now. This has happened for the first time. This is the BJP's move. So the consciousness of being a Pasmanda is not there as of now. In fact, hardly anybody I spoke to was aware of the term called Pasmanda. In fact, the BJP leaders were also a bit of a loss that how do we go out to people and explain who is a Pasmanda. But Manisha, the important point is they know that they are poor and backward. They know that they belong to certain biradaris, communities or caste, which are, if not untouchable, but which are beyond the pale of the Ashrafs. So it's like Pasmanda is a category like Dalit. Dalit is a category of assertion. So if you go to UP villages, they may not be aware that they are Dalits, but they will tell you they are Anusuchit Jati.
This was the political space that was created out of the push for more and more EBC representation. And Muslims were identified, the Pasmanda Muslims were identified as a group in which this political identity could be cultivated. But as was discussed, this should not come out of thin air. There has to be social grievances out of which political capital had to be made. And I think in Bihar there is an inch by inch fight for every social section. So we find at least 17, 18 political parties finding representation in assembly, from left to right to Muslim identity parties like OBCs, IAM, and then the Hindu nationalist parties, and then the Lohiite party. So this is a very I think targetable section.
See, nobody would deny here that the BJP has consolidated its vote bank on the basis of this anti-Muslim sentiment. But this is also true that they are trying to woo or bring the Pasmanda Muslims to their fold. I am not aware whether there is any specific scheme, but yes, when they say that the 33 or 35% of the total beneficiaries of our housing scheme, PM Awas Yojana, were Pasmandas, when they insist on it, when they repeatedly say, the CM office issues statements, when you go to interview them, they tell you that look, 40% of the beneficiaries of this scheme is of Muslims, 40% of the beneficiaries of ODOP, which is one district, one product schemes, are Muslim, and then even they have finer details of it. So it means that they are deliberately and consciously trying to make people aware, I mean citizens, that look, what we are doing, a lot of our welfare activities are for the Muslims as well.
So going back to what Ashutosh said earlier about this Pasmanda, sort of this identity not being part of popular consciousness, it's mostly, as of now, a kind of a social media online phenomenon, and it's mostly driven by activists who are like social on social media and elsewhere. And there's a reason for that. This may be a very controversial thing to say, but Indian Muslims have casteism, they have caste discrimination, they don't have a caste system. So when these Pasmanda activists say that there's a caste system, there is Pasmandas, Zashrafs, they're being like very unfaithful to the truth. There's merit to what they're saying, some of the arguments, and they're doing good work, but a lot of the facts they're kind of cherry picking, it's to fit their narrative rather than the other way around. For example, when they say that there's Ashraf or the upper caste and Pasmandas are the lower caste, that's never been the case. That's a class stratification. There are ethnic divisions within Muslims, there are class divisions within Muslims. Ashraf comes from Ashrafia, which was the noble class. And why, like for example, in Barani's book also, he is talking of a time he lived in 13th century in Delhi Sultanate. That Sultanate was started, it was ruled by slaves. Slaves who became rulers. That doesn't fit in a caste system. I mean, you can't imagine a slave being a noble. But what they meant by this system is, because most of these rulers came from Central Asia, right? So they had their own culture, they had this Persianized culture, they had their own language, they had their own understanding of Islam. So they imported that wholesale here. And after a point of time, Indian, like Persian became the court language in India. So they had that distinct culture from the Indian culture, and they kept that separate. And that was because of a power dynamic, because power had to remain within that circle. They couldn't transfer it to Indians. So they created this stratification, and it was economic, obviously. So there were Ashrafia were the nobles, and there were the Pasmanda who were outside of this. This is one of the reasons why these people, despite having all the power and everything, they were not the ones who converted like the lower caste to, for example, Islam. It was the others like the Sufis and everybody else who did that work.
As a professional party, the BJP is hugely ambitious. I mean, it is not satisfied at mere 40% or 50% votes. It wants to bring in as many votes as possible. Third reason, we somehow forget that the RSS has been seriously trying to embrace Gandhi and Ambedkar over the last several decades. And we may still not want to accept it, but the RSS has included Gandhi in its morning Sobha ki Prarthana jo hoti hai. And RSS has been visiting.
What has been the shift? Like pehle kaun hota tha?
Pehle koi hota, but Gandhi was not there initially. In the last several decades, Gandhi has found a permanent place. We can still say accuse them of being co-conspirators, of killers. That's a different argument altogether. But nevertheless, they have made a shift. They have made, so far, it's only Nehru they have a problem against with. Otherwise, they have included everybody, if you say. Gandhi, Ambedkar, Bhagat Singh, Patel, Subhash Chandra Bose. So they are trying to appropriate or include or embrace whichever way you want. Whichever way you want to put it. They are embracing whoever is possible. So why not Muslims as well? And for them, this is it's a low-hanging fruit, the Pasmanda Muslims.
A chief secretary came up with the report that the LG consent had not been taken, before implementing this excise policy. So the government decided to withdraw it altogether and come up with the old one. I mean, this is the context, and in this context, what happens? The chief secretary came up with a report where it was, it criticized, it accused the Aam Aadmi Party government of, favoring a few parties, a couple of parties. So LG refers it to the CBI, and the CBI then registers a preliminary inquiry, and then the raids happen, and along with the raids, an FIR, and with the FIR, they have named 15 persons.
Including close aides of...
And Sisodia is the number one accused.
Do you see this reaching a point at which somebody would be jailed, or is it going to be like every other CBI ED raid that the current government has done before elections in many places? So there's a lot of halla around it, and then the case just peters out.
The case is very simple. The case is that there is a conspiracy among these 15 people to take away sizable money or causing loss to the government exchequer. This is the case. So far during the raids, the CBI has not come up with anything, and initially it was that there was a loss of 8,000 crore. Okay, but the CBI needs to trace the money that these people have made during this time. Okay, governments come up with policies, many policies fail for maybe bad administration but here the CBI needs to prove the intention. So going by the CBI, which is our premier investigation agency and which has got a very good record of conviction, but equally they have a very bad record in so far as the political cases are concerned.
No matter how combative Kejriwal is, how much he tends to make of it, if like cases like this sort of pile up, you throw enough muck at somebody, some of it will stick. If you remember Manmohan Singh, I mean, he was clean as a whistle. Everybody knew that. But after that relentless corruption, some of it did stick. And in Kejriwal's case, that's his whole shtick, right? I'm the cleanest person. I'm the most honest person. No corruption. If there is even this, it doesn't need to be true. Even if there's this perception, okay, though maybe he's not as clean as he says, he loses his USP. And that's very damaging to him and his party.
You cannot miss the politics of sound in today's age. So acoustics, he keeps making noises. So and he hopes that would accumulate it to a point where he's seen as a contender. But the handicap that he has to deal with is that he is not in charge of even one decently sized state. You can say Punjab, but it's a mid-sized state, maybe a small state also.
As we record this show, Adani does not own any shares in NDTV. That has to be made clear. He has basically, like Mehraj had said, acquired a shell company which was linked to Ambani. He's bought that, and that shell company has had extended a loan to the holding company of NDTV, which was owned by Radhika Roy and Pranay Roy. And that loan can be turned into 100% equity at any point. And for the 13 years till when the company was linked to Ambani.
99.9%.
Yeah, I am 100 ho gaya. So when it was the reins were with Ambani, nothing like this happened. But as soon as the hands, they shifted to Adani, the reins of the company, Adani said that we would like to convert our loan into equity, please. And we'd also like 26% of NDTV in an open offer, which basically other shareholders of NDT can sell to Adani. Royals have asked for more time. And interestingly, the original terms of the loan says that even if this shell company can own all of RRPR, which is Radhika Roy Prannoy Roy Company, they can't get more than 26% of NDTV.
Now, in this case, what is really important to note that when NDTV came up with this statement, that's what they are saying, that we were not even aware of it till yesterday. So there was a 2 days time, but I think it is very, it is a formality. I mean, in these days, 2 days time, I think it will not stand.
But they anyway had 2 days until today, right?
In a court, so they can say, yes, we have said it for 2 days.
And when they
these are
release that statement, they acknowledge that they know about it.
Yes. So these are the two things. I mean, they first of all, they could not, both of them jointly could not find anyone who could buy this company.
Yeah.
Now, if it didn't happen for 10, 12 long years, so Ambani has, for whatever reasons, sold it to Adani. So now, what are the further how the corporate game is going to play? So that is yet to be seen. I mean, but if you look at the agreement, I think there should not be any hitch, any legal hurdle, for Adani to acquire.
So great friendship between the Ambanis and Roys there must have been, I'm guessing. And then something really went wrong, that if Roys are now saying ki bhai, we had no idea that the company has been sold off by an associate. I mean, the company's ties to Ambani gets snipped in 2012. An associate of Ambani who's on the board of Jio comes and takes over. Linked. It's all links in this
Because,
story.
I mean, we have to remember that this happened pre-2014. At that time, both Mr. Ambani and Royce were on the same side of the ruling class. That's like very... And also, I can imagine why they're trying to do this. One reason, obviously, is narrative control. If, as is being understood, that this is the whole thing is being driven with the government's at least patronage, not their active support. And another is ideological hegemony. So when you control these means of communication, when you control the public sphere, you can dictate what message gets sent out in the public sphere, what gets heard and what doesn't get heard. And for the media, for these barons, the tycoons themselves, it serves two purposes. One is obviously material, and that's been the case from before. Even like so-called legendary media owners like Ramnath Goenka, part of his feud with this whole kind of crusading journalism was because he had a feud with Reliance, Mukesh Ambani's father, right? So that was partly motivated by that. And famously, even now, for example, you have like one of the largest newspapers in India, one of the national newspapers, English newspapers. This owner, who is famous, like rather infamously, calls up reporters at the organization to have the police clear the road for the owner's car and everything, because they have to go from the office to the home, like for such petty things. And we have had media owners who have used their media, this pulpit, for their business to sustain their business interests, to put down their rivals and stuff and all that. But at the other end, there's also the problem that this is also a lot of this, the capital in this country is concentrated within a sliver of population which has traditionally voted for the BJP, which like kind of, so some of them at least maybe what you would call like true believers in the ideology. And if you take all of this together and see how it affects democracy, and it's very troubling whether people like pay attention to it or not.
No, I mean, see, NDTV promoters, I think, put too much faith into Ambani, because 350 crore, they parked 350 crore of loan for
15 years almost.
For 13 years, thinking that Ambani will not react on this, they will never ask for money. I think this is very stupid.
The fait accompli is that whatever news consumption is taking place in balanced or very, say, skewed ways or ideologically very tilted ways is being driven by these industrial houses. So whatever good or bad of journalism in large measure we got is through the base led by them. So it's not a very, say, striking piece of news that this has happened or that has happened. It's a kind of hostile takeover in corporate boardrooms that takes place So, and very difficult to explain to an average news consumer also. Yeah.
All of you listening in, the Chhota Hafta, do subscribe so you can listen to the entire Hafta. We will see you again next week with the Hafta. Till then, subscribe, pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Thank you. Goodbye.
All the Newslaundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to Newslaundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs, and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sun liya Afrika, mufat khoro. Not to brag or anything, but Newslaundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free. All Newslaundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.